isolate the scapula, the shoulder blades, because they're like this. And so when they're like this, look what happens to our shoulder joint. So if you look at top arm drive, what's going to happen is if we're really rounded, especially when we start to get in our head and pushing hard, is that the load on the shoulder is going to be huge and on the spine. And then we end up internally rotating and putting this in a real vulnerable position. So you want to try to get those scapulars set so that you have that awareness of setting them before you go out in the water. So be at your sides. You're going to just set your scapula. So what happens with our posture, the scapula wing away from our spine. So you're just going to let the shoulder blades, you want to think about setting them down and in. So if you need a visual when we're doing this stuff, where are my lats, blah, 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 you got to tell me because, again, our unconscious mind goes by vision, pictures. So if I can give you a picture to help isolate, that'll, some people are more visual learners. So shoulder blades down and in. Now, if you watch what happens, if I really crank it and then, plus I'm tight there anyway, my ribs want to come up, right? Do you see that? So here I'm relaxed and I'm setting them. So the next step is to make sure, one, I'm breathing from my diaphragm because that'll kick my transverse abdominis in. Plus to also think about setting the ribs down. So what that means is if you guys can stand where you're at, put your hands where your ribs kind of start to come together, and laugh or cough or make a snake sound. Blades, think like a snake or make a sound like a snake. Legs up, kind of relaxed. Then I'm going to let my legs go, think one direction. This shoulder blade's going to want to come up. So I want to keep it down. If it starts to come up, I cannot maintain it down. Then I go back to the middle. Other side, same thing. Everyone gets separation, right? You guys done a separation drill before?
Nope.
This one? Hip, trunk, hip, trunk. So because if you think about it, if you just stand there and just move your hips. And if you just let your hips go first, your trunk's going to follow, right? Generally speaking. Because bottom line, when you're on the boat or canoe, you want to be one with everything, right? One with the water connected to the canoe, connected to your behind, right? So you want that all to work together. So you need to, there's different energy transfer that you really want to make sure to be doing, because if not, and you're just driving, see if I'm driving just my leg only, see what happens to my body? So you're going to hinge a little bit first and then let the rotation follow. So you plant, hinge a little bit first and then the rotation follow. And we can kind of experiment with that a little bit, because if you just play with that, this would be kind of fun to do. Like when you're coaching, just have everyone paddle and just hinge. Proper warm up and stuff, and make sure everyone's like ready for it. But just have them go like that and just see what happens to the boat. Okay, now just hinge at the front. How does that feel? Okay. Now just rotate the whole time. How does that feel with the boat? And it's probably going to be less strong. You're going to feel less grab in the front. Okay, now what happens when you hinge a little bit, then rotate? And it's putting all that sequencing together. Dizziness factor, breathe. Hinge.
Is this a hinging exercise?
Hinging. Again, getting that fascia going in the front side, and then as you come up the back side, just getting that movement. And everyone's breathing, right?
Find out.
Blade, one hand on the top. So the top hand is going to be the leg, same leg that goes back. So it's on my right. So I'm going to take my right leg back. Keep your feet squared forward. Squeeze your back butt cheek. And then you're going to press this up and back. So still stay squared forward. getting some thoracic movement. We're getting front of the shoulder. Use your hips to help set that in the front. Feel that?
Yeah.
So that and you feel more, and let it run in here. Okay, so play with that. Let me move first though. I cannot do the limbo. And then you try the butt thing when you turn. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think I'm gonna do the same type of thing I did with boys. So what I'm feeling is that with your top arm, you're pushing down and through. So let's get where you can optimize your rotation more. Instead of being here with here, but be more here. So use your trunk more. Does that make sense? So actually come back a minute. Sit tall before you set it up. Okay, think of the hinging. Now hinge. Yes. And then do that little rotation here. So that you're here. Go ahead and come back. Go back to the setup spot. Okay, set this down. And instead of turning your shoulder this way, more like that.
Okay.
And then push down here. So feel how solid that is?
Yeah.
Okay, now go the way you did the first time. Feel that difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you keep that in mind. Sorry. Okay, now go. And then now rotate. Okay, now I'm going to change the band. Hinge. Feel that? Two more. But thank you, Gordon. That top arm's doing.
Okay.
And keeping, instead of it internally rotating, and keeping it set like this so that when you're actually out, that you feel the back of your arm, your long head of your tricep.
Okay.
And then remember, you were getting it down, so even exaggerate a little bit more with your hips, because your hips are going to help you get it out there, right? So something that's really helpful is that, like, while you're paddling, is to remember we talked about the conscious mind, you have to repeat, right? So to check in and remind yourself to hinge, because that's going to go away, especially when you start to. So if you just think about just hinging, just in the hip. So if you imagine the hip joints right here, and that it just hinging, and it's just amazing what difference you're going to feel as far as the weight on the blade. Okay, I'm going to hold the blade. Okay, so you got your chest showing to opposite shore, right? So over there, and your shoulders down. So now actually drive through your heel, let your hip go back. So not there, so hips. So let your hip, without even moving your trunk, let your right hip go back. Yes! And then now bring this one forward. So that sense that you want to do. So when your right one goes back, then you're going to pull through. So go ahead and do that. So when your right one goes back, you're going to go through. And then when your left one goes forward. Yes. Yeah, so on the recovery, you drive this one. When you go back, you drive this one, right? So drive, pull back, forward, back. And see how your trunk automatically responds to that? So this is called, there's power circles. This is the lower body power circle. Well, and you might too, because it's on